Can you feel it, that weight on your shoulders, that heaviness in your chest, that pressure that won't let up no matter how hard you try to shake it off? That, my friends, is not a sign that God has forgotten you. No, it is the unmistakable weight of transition. God is moving you, pushing you, stretching you, shaking you out of the old life so he can usher you into something new. And yes, it feels heavy. It feels overwhelming. It feels like you're carrying more than you should. But that heaviness is proof that something greater is on the horizon, that your breakthrough is coming, and that God himself is in the process of rewriting your story. Right now, he's asking you to hold on, to trust, to not let the pressure break you, because the very weight you feel is preparing you for the life you were always meant to live. I also want to talk about the way heaviness forces clarity. When life is light and easy, we often coast. We float along, doing what feels comfortable, following routines and sticking to what's familiar. But heaviness has a way of stripping all of that away. It strips the distractions. It strips the comfort. It strips the illusion that you can control everything. And in that stripping, you find clarity. You see what truly matters. You see what God is calling you toward. You see the areas of your life that need transformation, the relationships that need healing, the habits that need to die, and the purpose that is waiting for you. The heaviness makes you pause, reflect, and examine. It forces you to get real with yourself and with God. And that is the very work that prepares you for the new life he is calling you to. Now, I know some of you are struggling with fear. You are afraid of what's next. You are afraid of the unknown. You are afraid of leaving the old behind because it feels safe, familiar, predictable, even if it's not what God intended for you. And I want you to hear me clearly. Fear is normal. Fear is natural, but fear is not a stop sign. Fear is a signal. Fear is God saying you are on the edge of something new. Step forward. He is inviting you to walk through the heaviness with courage, knowing that he is right there with you. The heaviness is not the enemy. It is the gateway. And on the other side of that gateway is the life he promised, the life he has been preparing for you all along. The life where your purpose is fully realized, your gifts are fully expressed, and your joy is fully experienced. Think about the story of David. Before he became king, David faced enormous heaviness. He was anointed, yes, but he had to hide from Saul. He had to run for his life. He had to endure ridicule, danger, and uncertainty. And yet, every moment of that heaviness was a preparation for the throne. Every challenge was building courage. Every struggle was teaching resilience. Every pressure was sharpening his faith. David didn't skip the heaviness. He didn't avoid the pressure. He leaned into it. He trusted God through it. And he came out on the other side ready to receive the new life that had been promised to him. And your story is no different. Heaviness also teaches patience. In our fast-paced world, we want everything now. We want the breakthrough today, the answer today, the change today. But God operates on his timing, and sometimes he allows heaviness to linger so that your faith, your character, and your heart can grow in the meantime. Patience is not passive. Patience is active trust. Patience is saying, Lord, I don't understand the timing, but I trust you. And that trust cultivated in the heaviness becomes a foundation that will support your new life when it finally arrives. I want you to consider this. Heaviness is not the opposite of joy. It is the prelude to it. Just as night precedes dawn, just as winter precedes spring, just as the seed must endure the darkness before it sprouts, heaviness is the precursor to joy, peace, and fulfillment. When you walk through this weight with God, when you allow him to carry you, teach you, and mold you, you are stepping into a life that is richer, deeper, and more meaningful than you could have imagined. Heaviness is not the end, it is the beginning. It is the preparation, it is the shaping of a life that will be used for something extraordinary. Many of us resist heaviness because it is uncomfortable. We avoid it because it exposes our weaknesses. We fear it because it forces us to confront what we have been hiding from ourselves. But the truth is that growth, transformation, and new life never happen in comfort. They happen in pressure. They happen in struggle. They happen when you are forced to rely not on yourself, but on God. And the beauty of it is that when you step into that reliance, when you embrace the heaviness rather than resist it, you find a power within you that you didn't know existed. You find faith that carries you. You find strength that surprises you. You find a hope that anchors you. I also want you to remember that heaviness is not permanent. Seasons change, pressure eases, storms pass. And when you look back on this time, you will see it as the very moment that God was moving you, shaping you, and preparing you for the life you are about to step into. Heaviness is temporary, but the lessons it teaches you last a lifetime. Heaviness is temporary, but the transformation it produces is permanent. And here's the thing, God does not just want to move you. He wants to move you fully, completely, and without reservation. That is why the heaviness is necessary. It forces you to let go of what is holding you back. It forces you to release what is keeping you stuck. It forces you to surrender fully to His plan. And when you do, when you release, when you surrender, when you trust, you will experience a freedom that only God can give. A freedom that comes when you allow the heaviness to do its work and embrace the new life waiting for you. The heaviness you feel is also a reminder of God's presence. Even when it seems overwhelming, even when it seems too much, even when you feel like you can't go on, God is there. He is not distant. He is not silent. He is walking with you through the fire, carrying you through the storm, and guiding you toward the new life that He has promised. You are never alone in the heaviness. And that is the most powerful truth of all. You ever notice how the moments that feel the heaviest, the moments that push you to your limits, are the exact moments that shape you the most? I'm talking about the kind of pressure that makes your heart race, that makes your mind spin, that makes you question if you can even keep going. And yet those very moments, those heavy, uncomfortable, seemingly impossible moments are exactly where God does His deepest work. Transition is never easy. Change is never light. Growth is never effortless. And if you are standing on the threshold of a new life, a new season, a new purpose, I need you to understand this. Pressure is part of the process. Pressure is not punishment. Pressure is preparation. Pressure is what produces growth, breakthrough, and the life God has been calling you into. Think about it for a moment. Diamonds are formed under pressure. You cannot have a diamond without it. Coal does not turn into something beautiful without enduring immense heat and weight, and your life works the same way. The pressure you feel, the stress, the uncertainty, the weight of responsibility, the moments where you feel like you are barely holding on, those are all shaping you into something remarkable. God uses pressure to awaken the strength, the courage, and the perseverance that is already inside of you but hasn't yet been revealed. He uses pressure to stretch you, to grow you, to prepare you for the breakthrough that is coming. Transition is never meant to be comfortable. It is never meant to be easy. When God moves you into a new season, when He calls you into a new purpose, when He invites you to step into the fullness of your destiny, He does not remove the pressure. He actually increases it. He heightens it. He amplifies it. Why? Because pressure produces the resilience, the faith, the clarity, and the character that are required to walk into the next level of your life. If life were easy, if change came without challenge, you wouldn't grow. You wouldn't stretch. You wouldn't rise to the fullness of who God created you to be. Pressure is the fire that forges strength. It is the soil in which breakthroughs are planted. It is the refining weight that shapes your destiny. Let me tell you, there will be moments in this process where it feels unbearable. There will be days when the pressure feels like it is too much to carry. You'll find yourself asking, Lord, why is this happening? Why am I being pushed so hard? Why can't this transition be easier? And in those moments, I want you to remember that pressure is a sign of movement. Pressure is proof that something is happening in your life. It is proof that God is taking you from one level to another. It is proof that you are not stagnant, that you are not stuck, that you are not forgotten. Pressure is the evidence that growth is occurring. Think about Joseph for a moment. He was sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused and thrown into prison. That was pressure, immense pressure. And yet God used that pressure to position Joseph for greatness. That pressure produced a man capable of leading nations, of saving lives, of fulfilling a destiny that could only have come through the refining fire of his circumstances. Every step of Joseph's journey was under pressure, but every step also produced growth, resilience, wisdom, and breakthrough. And your story is no different. Pressure also exposes what is inside of you. It exposes your faith, your endurance, your patience, and your strength. It reveals what you are made of when everything else is stripped away. That is why God allows it. That is why he doesn't always remove the weight, because he knows that inside of that pressure is potential for growth, potential for transformation, potential for breakthrough. When you are under pressure, you are not alone. God is there molding you, shaping you, stretching you, and preparing you for what lies ahead. Now, I know some of you are sitting here thinking, but this pressure is too much. I can't handle it. I'm drowning. And I want to tell you something. You are stronger than you think. You are capable of more than you know. Pressure doesn't break you unless you let it. Pressure doesn't define you unless you allow it. When you lean into God in the midst of pressure, when you trust him, when you surrender, the weight that once seemed unbearable becomes the very thing that propels you forward. Pressure, when embraced with faith, produces momentum. Pressure produces strength. Pressure produces breakthrough. Growth and breakthrough do not happen in comfort zones. They happen when you are pushed beyond what is familiar, when you are stretched beyond what is easy, when you are challenged in ways that force you to rely on God rather than your own understanding. That is why pressure is not the enemy. It is your friend. It is your teacher. It is the divine tool God uses to prepare you for the next chapter of your life. Every time you feel the weight, every time you feel the strain, every time you feel like giving up, remember that God is at work in that pressure, producing in you the strength, wisdom, and faith that will carry you into your breakthrough. I also want you to understand that pressure is personal. God doesn't give you more than you can bear, but he gives you exactly what you need to grow. The challenges you are facing, the stress you are under, the weight on your shoulders, they are uniquely calibrated to push you into alignment with your purpose. What you are experiencing right now is preparing you for the life only you can live, the impact only you can make, the destiny only you can fulfill. And when you come through it, when you emerge on the other side, you will see that every ounce of pressure, every moment of struggle, every difficulty was worth it because it produced growth, breakthrough, and transformation. Think about Esther. She was placed in a palace not just to live in comfort, but to fulfill a purpose. The pressure of being in the palace, the weight of responsibility, the fear of the unknown, it all pressed on her. And yet it was that very pressure that produced courage, strategy, wisdom, and influence. Pressure shaped her into a woman capable of saving her people. Pressure produced her breakthrough. And just like Esther, your pressure is preparing you for your purpose. I want to remind you that pressure produces perspective. When everything feels overwhelming, when life is heavy, when the weight is pressing down on you, God is giving you a chance to see things differently. Pressure teaches you what matters, what doesn't, who is real, and who isn't. Pressure helps you prioritize your life, focus your energy, and align your steps with God's plan. It produces discernment, clarity, and insight, things you cannot gain in easy seasons. And here's the truth. Breakthrough is always preceded by pressure. The life you are praying for, the purpose you are longing for, the change you desire. It will not come without a process. It will not come without stretching. It will not come without pressure. That's how God works. That's how he transforms lives. And the key is not to resist it, not to complain, not to wish it away, but to embrace it with faith, with patience, and with trust. When you do, what feels like pressure today becomes your strength tomorrow, your story of triumph, and your testimony of breakthrough. Have you ever tried to carry something that was too heavy, something that no longer served you, something that belonged in your past? How exhausting is it to try to move forward when your hands are still full of yesterday's baggage? Yesterday's pain, yesterday's disappointments, and yesterday's failures. Many of us are holding on to things God is trying to remove from our lives. And here's the truth. As long as you are holding on to the old, you will never be able to fully step into the new. You cannot grasp the life God has for you while clinging to what he is calling you to release. Letting go is not optional if you want the fullness of your destiny. It is necessary, it is essential, and it is the very act that opens the door to transformation, freedom, and purpose. Letting go is hard because it requires trust. It requires faith in the unseen. It requires courage to step out of what is comfortable, familiar, and predictable, even when it is no longer good for you. But God is calling you into a life that is greater than your current circumstances. He is calling you into a future that is brighter, a purpose that is higher, a joy that is deeper. And the only way to walk into that life is to release what is holding you back. You cannot hold on to fear and faith at the same time. You cannot cling to the past and embrace the future at the same time. You cannot carry disappointment and step into destiny at the same time. Think about the story of Abraham. God called him to leave his country, his family, and everything familiar to go to a land he would show him. That meant letting go of security, familiarity, and comfort. That meant trusting God completely in the unknown. And as Abraham let go, as he followed God step by step, he discovered the fullness of the promise. A life that he could never have grasped had he clung to the old. His letting go was the very key that unlocked his destiny. And I know some of you are struggling with letting go because it feels like loss. It feels like giving up. It feels like sacrifice. But the truth is, letting go is not loss. It is gain. Letting go is not giving up. It is making room. Letting go is not weakness. It is strength. When you release the old, you make space for the new. You make room for God to do a fresh work in your life. You make room for blessing, for purpose, for joy, for growth, and for the life he has been calling you to. Many of us hold on to things because of fear of change, fear of uncertainty, fear of what comes next. We tell ourselves, I can't let go because I don't know what's coming. I don't know if it will be better, but God doesn't call us into the unknown to harm us. He calls us into the unknown to grow us, to bless us, and to lead us into a life that surpasses what we have ever imagined. And here's the thing, the unknown will always feel uncertain. The future will always feel unclear, and the process will always feel uncomfortable. But that is exactly why letting go is necessary, because if it were easy, if it were comfortable, if it required no faith, we would miss the depth of transformation that God is trying to produce in our lives. Letting go also requires forgiveness. Sometimes what we hold on to is not just things, but pain, resentment, and bitterness. We hold on to people who hurt us, circumstances that disappointed us, or mistakes that we keep replaying over and over in our minds. And until we forgive, until we release, until we let go, we cannot fully step into the life God has for us. Forgiveness is not for the other person. It is for you. It is the act that frees your heart, clears your mind, and allows you to move forward. Letting go and forgiving are powerful tools that God uses to prepare you for your new life. Consider Joseph again. He could have held on to bitterness toward his brothers who sold him into slavery. He could have clung to anger toward Potiphar's wife, toward Pharaoh, toward every trial he endured. But Joseph let go. He released the old. He forgave. And in doing so, he positioned himself to step fully into the life God had prepared for him, a life of influence, blessing, and provision for his family and for nations. His letting go was not easy, but it was necessary, and it unlocked his destiny. I want you to hear me. God is calling you to release what is no longer serving you. He is calling you to let go of old habits, old relationships, old mindsets, old fears, old failures. He is calling you to unclench your fists, to open your hands, and to trust that He will fill your life with something new, something greater, something divinely designed for you. Holding on to the past only limits your potential. Holding on to the past only delays your breakthrough. Holding on to the past only keeps you in a place where God cannot fully bless you. Letting go also requires courage because it is a step into the unknown. It is a step of faith. It is a step where you cannot see the whole path, but you trust that God has gone ahead. You walk by faith, not by sight. You trust that what He is calling you into is better than what you are leaving behind. And sometimes that step requires everything you have, your confidence, your security, your comfort, but God will meet you there. He will equip you. He will guide you. He will carry you through the transition. Think about Moses. God called him to leave Egypt, to lead his people out of bondage, and to walk into a mission far greater than he could imagine. That required letting go of his old life, his identity, and his comfort. It required courage, faith, and trust. And as Moses let go, he discovered the fullness of God's plan, a plan that would change the course of history. Your story is no different. The old must be released to make room for God's new work in your life. Sometimes letting go also means embracing discomfort. It means sitting with uncertainty. It means stepping into vulnerability. It means facing your fears head on. But it is in that discomfort that God works most powerfully. It is in that space that transformation occurs. It is in that moment when you release the old that God fills you with strength, clarity, vision, and purpose. And here's the truth. Letting go is not a one-time act. Sometimes it is a process. Sometimes it requires repeated surrender. Sometimes it requires saying goodbye to the old, stepping into the new, and then saying goodbye again. God's work in your life is ongoing, and your willingness to release, trust, and let go is what allows Him to continue moving in powerful ways. I want you to think about your life for a moment. What are you holding on to that is keeping you from fully embracing God's plan? What old habit, old mindset, old relationship, old fear, or old disappointment is in your hands that you need to release today? What are you gripping so tightly that God cannot fully move you forward? Whatever it is, I want you to hear me clearly. It is time to let go. It is time to release. It is time to open your hands, open your heart, and allow God to do a new work in your life. And when you do, when you finally let go, you will experience a freedom that you never imagined. You will feel a peace that surpasses understanding. You will step into a life that is lighter, brighter, and full of purpose. You will see that letting go was not losing, it was gaining. Not giving up, it was stepping forward. Not weakness, it was strength. I want you to hear me today. The process you are in, the journey you are walking, the waiting, the uncertainty, the heaviness, it is not without purpose. God is moving even when it doesn't feel like it. God is at work even when you cannot see the outcome. And the key to walking through every challenge, every trial, every season of pressure is trust. Trusting God in the process transforms the weight you feel into strength, transforms the struggle into breakthrough, and transforms the waiting into faith. It is trust that allows you to see beyond the difficulty and to believe in the promise of what God is doing. Many of us struggle with trust because we want control. We want to see the path clearly. We want to know the outcome before we take the step. We want assurance that everything will go exactly as we expect. But God does not always reveal the full picture. He asks you to take the step even when the road is uncertain. He asks you to trust him even when the burden feels heavy. He asks you to believe in his faithfulness even when circumstances suggest otherwise. And here's the truth. The act of trust transforms the process itself. When you trust, the weight becomes lighter. When you trust, the struggle becomes a lesson. When you trust, the waiting becomes a season of preparation. Think about the story of Abraham and Sarah. They were promised a child, a legacy, a miracle, but the waiting, the years of barrenness, the doubt from others, it was heavy. It was pressure-filled, and yet Abraham trusted. Sarah trusted. Even when it seemed impossible, even when the world said no, they held on to God's promise. And because of that trust, what was heavy became their testimony. What was waiting became their breakthrough. What was impossible became their miracle. Trust transforms the process. Trust also transforms your perspective. When you are carrying a burden, when life feels heavy, when the pressure is intense, it is easy to focus on the weight, on the difficulty, on the challenge, but trust shifts your focus from the weight to the one who carries you. It shifts your eyes from the storm to the Savior. It shifts your attention from what you cannot control to what God is in control of. And in that shift, strength is born, faith grows, courage rises, and what once felt overwhelming now becomes an opportunity to experience God's power, presence, and provision in ways you never imagined. I know some of you are afraid of the process. You are afraid of waiting, afraid of struggle, afraid of disappointment. You are afraid that if you trust, it won't work out, it won't come together, it won't be enough. But here's the truth. Trust does not guarantee an easy road. Trust does not remove all obstacles. Trust does not eliminate challenges. But trust guarantees God's presence, his guidance, his provision, and his power to carry you through. When you trust, the weight is no longer a burden you carry alone. It becomes a strength that God uses to mold you, refine you, and prepare you for your destiny. Consider Joseph in the Bible, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned for years. Joseph's process was filled with weight, pressure, and seemingly insurmountable challenges. But Joseph trusted God in the process, and that trust transformed his situation. That trust turned imprisonment into preparation. That trust turned hardship into opportunity, and eventually that trust brought Joseph into a position of influence where he saved nations and fulfilled God's plan for his life. Trust transforms the process, and it transforms you along the way. Trust also develops patience. In a world that wants instant results, instant success, instant answers, trust teaches you to wait on God's timing. It teaches you that God's plan is perfect even when it doesn't align with your schedule. It teaches you that the waiting is not wasted. The waiting is preparation. The moments that feel long, the seasons that feel heavy, the challenges that seem endless, all of it is shaping your character, building your faith, and equipping you to walk into the life God has promised. Trusting God allows you to see that every delay, every trial, every moment of uncertainty has a purpose, and that purpose is to make you ready for the breakthrough that is coming. I want to remind you that trust is active, not passive. It is not simply saying, God, I trust you, and doing nothing. Trust requires action. Trust requires obedience. Trust requires perseverance.